Hi everybody, Giselle Grenier here from artplace.ca. So for part 2 of the Coptic journal that I'm making, this episode is with covers. So in the last, in part 1, I showed you this little one with the hardcover. Now this one here, I've got the actual hole inside. I punched a hole in the actual cover. In these covers, I'm actually going to put eyelets just to make something different. So what I showed you in part 1, where I put my signatures in a book press, and I picked this up at Lee Valley, but you can make one of these so easy, just lightweight wood, corrugated cardboard, some parchment paper to put in between so stuff doesn't stick if you've got already a painted page, and you can get Velcro straps like this at a sewing store. But this was not very expensive at all. So these all came out, so I've got 20 here. I clamped them, and then just to show you how I line these up, I used my template that I showed you in part 1, and so it's a piece of paper the same height as a journal, folded in half, then that half folded in half, then this half folded, so each piece is folded in half, and I decided where I wanted my stitches to go, my sewing stations, made a mark, and then on one signature I basically took a pencil and just kind of poked to make a mark. But to get all of these done, now I did this on a table, so what you do is either with a square, okay, T-square, all I did was lined up my ruler because it was level, and all I did was from the first mark on that signature, I just made a line going straight up. Okay? And I got it like that. So basically it was like, this is the table, and I made a line from the first signature where I made the first mark on this, and just went up. So much faster than going through every single signature and making a hole. Okay, so I'm left with that. And I kind of went off here. I wasn't paying attention. So I tried to do it like this first. Don't do it that way. Do it properly on a table with a hard ruler, not a flexible ruler, and then you can make your mark. Okay? So it leaves me with that. Then the next thing to do is to basically punch the holes. Now, the other books that I have, these are the ones I completed. So this is where the cover is actually part of the book. Okay? There is no hard cover. The signature, the front page of the signature is actually the cover of the book. And this one here, I made a huge boo-boo in one of the stitches, but then what I did is I just, kept making knots with the thread. I would take this and I would put it through, right through the whole thing, and just kind of looped a knot, just to make a decorative stitch. So it kind of hid the stitch, okay, where I made the big mistake. And what it was that I was not paying attention, and I had flipped some of the signatures around. So very, very important that once you have your signatures set and marked, that they're always kept in the same position. You're always taking and placing, not taking, turning, and all this stuff. That was my mistake. Okay? And when you do it right, you end up with a book with a beautiful, beautiful stitching. See these holes here, how a little bit bigger? This stitch I made a little bit tight, so it tore a little bit of the paper. So that's another thing. So with this one here, no covers, so we are going to put covers on this one. Now this one here, each signature has 2 folios. Sorry about that, I had to quickly stop because Mia just popped into the room. I just had to wait for her to settle, and I can continue. Sorry about that. So where was I? So yeah, so this is 2 folios per signature, so we have basically 10 signatures, and you have pieces like this. Okay, so there's 2 folios per signature. I know that I'm probably going to do a lot more thick work in this. If you know that you're going to make thick pages, a lot of collaging or stuff like that, or embellishments, you can actually use each signature, each folio as its own signature, so you can bind it this many times. And because I've already got 2 books, which are 20 folios into 2s to make 10 signatures, I'm going to do this one individually just so you can see what it looks like. Okay? And this is a very, very thick mixed media paper. All right? So all that's left to do with this is basically to unclamp it. And keep the clamps handy because you will need them later. Okay, and is to basically just go into, move out of the way. Doesn't matter how big my table is, I always tend to run out of room. Okay, all you have to do is to always take from the same way, take from the top, flip it, and all you're going to do is just punch over each hole. Make sure it goes through the paper. Okay, so I took it off this way. I'm going to put it this way. Now the other thing that you can do is if you don't have an awl, not everybody does, you can use the same needle. So you just have to be a little bit more careful. Pop, pop, pop. Just be a little bit more careful when you make the holes. Make sure it goes through. Now, see, I'm confused now. Now, because I turned it, didn't I? Okay, so I'm going to go back. See, this is why it's so important. Yeah, and it's perfect. One thing that you can do is you can take a pencil and you can lightly just nick to show that that's the top. You can do that as well. Whatever way you find that's going to be the way that you're going to punch your papers, do the whole thing at once. Try not to be interrupted, just so your stations, your storing stations will always be lined up. Okay, so that's that. And place it on top. Okay, so I'm going to do that off camera for all of these, just so you don't, it's not wasting your time. Put that aside. But what I do want to show you now is the covers. So this is one of the covers, and this is, see, isn't that beautiful? Now, remember the measurement I had on here? I don't care. I actually kind of like that now. It can be the bottom. This can be in the back. This way, it'll be upside down. So I'm probably going to just leave it on the cover here. It doesn't matter. This cover I can still work on. I don't have to leave it blank. I can still work on it. But what I like to do is decorate the book at the very end. The cover, I should say. To do the holes for the cover, all you're basically doing is taking the same holes, okay, and you're going to go, now I went in with the large hole this way. Okay, I know metric, what is it in imperial? 1/4 of an inch. 1/4 of an inch, 6.5 millimeters. Yeah, about 6 millimeters, 6.5 millimeters, and I just punched the holes. But what you can do on a regular cover, okay, so you're going to find out where you want to go and try to measure in about 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch. If you make it too close to the edge, you're actually going to, you may rip your book. So you measure in, take your template with a pencil. You're going to mark with the pencil, and then you're going to punch right through the book. Okay. But I wanted to do something different because I've never done it with eyelets, and I love eyelets. It's the industrial type of look. So how I did that is I took the actual signature on this one here. I took the actual signature and I lined it up where I wanted it to be because I wanted a bit of a border here. Okay, and I took my pencil and I marked out where the holes were. And where I knew where the holes were, then this was already set at 1/4 of an inch, and I just went in and punched them all. Then I put the eyelets in. Okay, so now for the second one, to make sure that they're all lined up, I'm not going to basically remeasure and make my holes based on the signature. I'm going to make a copy of this one. So whatever side, I'm going to work it. Okay. And yes, I should clamp it, so I'm going to clamp it because this is all about, it's you spend more time measuring. Now you don't have to be this detailed, but I do. Okay, and it's important that this is lined up. So if your edges are uneven here, that's fine. It's important that this is lined up. And just going to make a hole, make a mark. We are using very expensive tools here, aren't we? I'm going to make them a little bit darker so you can see. And for those of you that already know how to do the Coptic stitch and with hardcovers, then you can don't even bother watching the video. This is for people who are learning to do it. Okay? So we have. Now this is if you were similar to using this template. If you were just using your awl, then you would just basically punch right through this. Okay? And I'm using my, what is it called, crocodile or whatever it's called. I don't know names. It's on with the big hole, okay, set at 1/4 of an inch. And I don't know if you'll be able to see. Where is the hole? Where's the hole? So I'm going to do it this way so I can see. So basically I'm lining it up, and the actual bottom of the punch, and I can actually see, and I'm just going to place it right on top of the hole. Okay, you probably can't even see that. And punch. Go over and punch. Another one of the nice cool things is that because we're doing an eyelet, it is forgiving if you're off just by a little bit, because you've got such a big hole to work with. Okay. And this can't be, like through heavy cardstock, it can't be done with a regular hole punch. I already broke a bunch, so I buckled down, spent the, I don't know, 40 bucks or whatever, and got this one. I think it was 40 bucks. Now these eyelets, these are gold eyelets. I picked these up at Princess Auto in Hamilton. You can get regular eyelets, I think, anywhere. But because I got them Princess Auto, I got a bag of 50, I think, for 5 bucks. I think that's a good price. Now what I use, I have to kind of peek over my glasses. I'm using the number 1, and I think it's A1. Sorry, A1. So the A1, the A cube and the 1 cube, and the piece that sticks up is what goes underneath. Okay, so I'm going to take my eyelet, and I want the beautiful flat part on the outside of the book. Okay, and some of you guys that know how to do this probably laughing at me that I'm actually showing this. There are some people out there that have never done this before. So go through and pressure, and there you go, done. I've been told for the last 18 months to pick up one of these, because when I would use a regular hole punch, then I would I was doing everything old school, and I was getting really, really sore hands. I can't believe how very little pressure I have to use with this. I have to use a little bit more pressure when working with this covered illustration board, but I can do it with one hand perfectly. And I have no more pain. Now, that's just me, so you'll have to judge it yourself. And I can usually feel if it's going through or not, and I like the rubber handle as well. Anything that makes my job easier when creating art is a bonus in my book. And I actually wanted to use, I'll have to show you, I wanted to use copper eyelets, but I'm running out. I lied. I'm not running out. I don't want to run out. I'm saving these for my dark side of vintage pages. Look at that. How easy was that, eh? So I've got these beautiful, so I've got some copper, some gold, some silver. These are all at Princess Auto. And I think you can even get these at a fabric store. Anytime you go to a specialty shop, though, you pay a little bit more. So, and then lock it. Put that aside. All the supplies I'm using will be at the end of the video as well. Okay. Beautiful. Look at that. Line up so nicely. Oh, this one's kind of I went wonky on this one. This one's got a little bit of a defect in it. See a little bit of a curve? Doesn't matter to me, because that's the cover. Now, some of you may, sometimes there's a little bit of you can feel a little bit of the edge here. If that's a concern for you, you can take a hammer and hammer them down just to flatten them even more. To me, I'm carefully doing this. I'm not going to be worried about my page getting caught, because when I actually sew everything together, I can glue the first sheet to the inside cover if I wanted to. So when you're doing this, if you want to use eyelets and you haven't quite flattened these enough and you're getting quite snagged and hammering them doesn't work and they're bound in so tight you can't even remove them, you can glue your first signature cover so that way it's not going to scratch you or your first page. Okay. So what I will do though, this one's got the holes, right? I will show you how to cover to bind the first page. Let me move this out of the way. Don't need that. All right, so we're going to work on the back cover. You got to make sure you have these completely matched up. Okay. Now, when you're working with this, it's easier to work from the bottom up. Okay, because we're always adding to the top. So you're going to work with the back cover, and you're going to take your signature, assuming they're all punched, and you're going to go straight to here. All right, and I'm just going to do just a little bit of thread just for demonstration purposes, because we all know that when it gets caught, it's time consuming to fix that up. I am going to use my curved needle. You can use any needle you want, but the curved needle is a little bit easier. It's just a quilting or tapestry needle. Now I am here going to make a knot, leave about 2 inches. And the knot I'm going to make is I'm going to make my knot, and I'm not going to pull the tail all the way through. I'm going to leave it like this. Okay? All right. We're going to start on this side and we're going to work this way. You're going to go inside here. Okay? You're going to come through the hole, around, and back through. But what you will do though is you will cut enough thread, measure a piece of thread for every signature in your book. I'm just doing this with short thread just so to cut down on jamming. Now with this, what you can do is when you come through your signature first, okay, some people will go straight. Some people will go inside the inside front cover first, okay, then go to the outside. It really doesn't matter because it ends up being the same stroke, the same stitch. I'm going to show you. But ideally, all we're doing is just wrapping it like that. Okay, that's all we're doing. It doesn't matter whether you go in here first or here first. What's happening is that you're going in through the signature, you're wrapping the thread right around the cover, okay, then you're going back into the hole, like so. Okay, then I'm going to undo that knot, and I'm just going to make this just a little bit tighter. I don't like wasting thread. Okay, just going to make this a little bit tighter, and you're going to make a knot. Now, I'm not going to make it so tight, and I'm not going to double knot it because I'm going to actually cut longer thread and bind it properly. All right, and then you're going to repeat the whole process. Where's the next hole? In the next hole. Okay, now this one I'll do the other way. Around. Around. You can either do it inside and around this way or outside through this way. It doesn't matter. The stitch ends up being the same. And then back through the hole again. Okay, into the next hole. Now there are some books that I've done like this. They didn't have the eyelet, just the regular hole, where as I've gone through here, I've actually done oops, okay, here we go. Let me see if I can get a close-up. Where's my remote? What I was saying is I would sometimes even make a little knot. I actually went through the thread. See here? I don't know if you can see. I actually went through the thread. do not continue. You have to stop because you're going to mess up, I was going to say screw up, you're going to mess up the whole thing. If you can find where you went through it wrong, like where you went through, then you can fix it. Okay, see, because I now put a split in it. Then you can continue. Just tighten up the tension a little bit. This will happen very frequently when you have a thicker cord. Okay, see how it just wraps around? It's so easy peasy. In the signature, okay, you're going in the inside signature, you're going right around the cover, back through the same hole, make a knot. Inside this, then you go to the next station, inside the signature, come out, back through the hole. Okay, go to the next one. But inside here, you can optionally here, what I like to do sometimes, if I know the book's going to be well used, okay, let me do the next one, okay? Not well used, well worked in. So you're coming through the signature. I sneezed. Sorry about that. Anytime you see an abrupt stop, it's usually either Mia or me sneezing. So through the signature, out. And I'm just going to come around. It doesn't matter which order you do that. Okay. Then I'll come back through. Hopefully I won't go through the thread. No, I'm good. Okay. Tighten up the tension a little bit, not too much. I cut my nails. I can't grab anything. Okay. So now it's nice and snug. And I can also then just wrap the thread around. Okay, and then through here. So we're making that same knot as we do with the other version. Okay, and it just reinforces it. You don't have to. You don't have to do that. It just makes it a little bit stronger. And then you're going to continue. Okay, around. And, whoops, and through, back through the hole. Okay, then I can make that knot. And this is what I find if I'm going to be doing a lot of work in this journal, this also is helpful if you're going to be gluing this to the front cover, because this one's going to get a lot of wear and tear. Okay, and it creates a nice little decorative piece here. So you're going to go do that all the way through. Now, I am going to cut all these back out when I actually sew the pieces, because I'm going to be using longer thread. But I want to show you how to attach the next signature. Because it is different when you're doing this book with no covers. Remember, with no covers, we go in from the outside. Okay, we go all the way around, out, attach a signature, then we make those stitches. With the cover, we don't do that in all the way around. We don't do that first stitch. It's a completely different process if you're putting a cover on it. Hopefully with this close-up you're able to see a little bit easier. Now when we go through this one here, okay, now you'll have to watch close. Whoops. Okay, so we wrapped it around, we've gone through here. You don't have to go back in now. Okay, but what I will do is I will come around and I'll make my knot right here. Because it's the end. Okay, you take your deck signature on top. Now this is where you would clamp these parts here, and you just go through the next one. Okay, open that up. All right, go to the next hole. Remember, clamp these if you can. Where's that hole? Where's the hole? It's so much easier with a shorter thread, but now I'm going to have to cut everything apart. Okay. When you have the tension, if the thread's going this way, do not pull this way or up. Always pull in the direction that the thread is going. That way you're not going to tear the holes. Okay. Now, this is where now we're on the second signature. We're going to loop through. Try to get it so I stay on camera. Okay. Loop through. And then you can, maybe just make this wider so you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, see that? So we loop through, the thread back through that. Okay, make it nice and snug, not tight, snug. Then go back through the hole. At this part, the stitches are the exact same for the rest of the signatures. And at this part, the stitches are the exact same as the Coptic journal with no covers. Remember, don't make it too tight. Okay. Go to the next one. There's one that I would like to try. It's a 3-hole Coptic book. It's with, the cover has 3 holes in it, which is really nice. Got the loop through, and this makes a knot. And then back through the hole. You can also, see how loose that is? You need to check this, the tension, but I'm gonna be cutting these anyways. You can, when looping this, loop, okay, and then just go straight through the hole if you want. I like making that extra knot. It just makes it a little bit stronger. There are so many ways. Basically, all you're doing is just sewing pages together. That's technically what you're doing. You're sewing pages together. Now, if you were going through this, you're halfway through your book and you had this, you're going to have to unthread your needle, pull everything back through to fix that. That's the right way of doing it. And clamp these together. Okay, so you see what's happening here? Let me just zoom out. There we go. So as you keep building and building and building, when you finalize to get to the top cover, okay, then we're just basically going to sew that. And I will show this at the end when I'm finished binding all these. So to finish off this, it's the same stitching what I just showed you, okay, here. It's the same stitching. It's also the same stitching used for all of these. Okay, the only difference is having that cover on there, okay. And with a cover, you're not having to go in. Where did it started here? You're not having to go in all the way down, out, in, and then come around. When there's no covers, the first 2 signatures are bound differently. Okay, but everything else after that's done the same. When you've got the covers, the cover and the first signature, it's so much easier to bind it. Okay, because all you're doing is just in, around, through, knot, over, through, around, through, over, through, around, through, over. And then when you put your second signature on, everything's the same for the rest of the book. Okay, so I'm going to go off camera now and I'm going to bind this book, and I will stop at the point when I'm ready to put the cover on. So with this, I'll be back probably in about an hour. It's kind of hard for you to hear my thoughts when I've got background music playing, but you notice that everything that I was doing through here I was pulling the entire thread through before I did the next stitch. But this one here, I kind of did 2 in 1. And as the thread gets shorter, you'll be able to do that. So I'm on the second signature now. So going through, and there was one part here where I started to go through and then the thread got caught. So I pulled everything back out. Might as well do it right. So with this one here is I pulled the thread through. This string that's around the cover, I'm going to loop right through it. This is where I can do the stitches all in one stroke. Okay? And then go back through the hole that the thread just came out of. Okay? And then what I'm doing is each time I'm pulling the thread, I'm pulling it to one side. So all the thread is hanging now on my right, and I'm pulling it out. And it's going on the floor on the left side. That way the thread, there's a reduced chance of it getting tangled up. I did get it tangled up there for a bit because the actual needle fell on the floor. It's cumbersome when the thread is very long. Okay, now the thread's on the left, just draped all on the floor. Now I'm going to go into the next hole. See if I can do this so it's easier for you to see. So the next hole. Okay, so what I was before, pulling everything out, making the loop, pulling everything out, put it back in, pulling everything out. Now I can basically do everything all in one shot. In, and I'm going to go underneath the thread that's holding the cover to the first signature. Okay, and back through the original hole. Now if you wanted to make a actual knot here, you'll have to do the strokes one at a time. The stitches one at a time. Okay, and you'll know if you start trying to do if you try to do the stitch all in one shot and you're fighting to pull the thread, then stop. Okay, now I'm going to pull the thread onto my right side. It's a little snug, and that's because I made that stitch just a little too tight. Making sure this thread is draping on the floor, not doing it too fast. Okay, there we go. And then I'll go into the next hole. So alternative, if you're starting, you're going to go, if you're just learning this, you're going to go out the hole, and then you're going to pull all the thread through. Okay. Once you've done this a few times, then you'll be able to cut down on some strokes. Then you're going to loop around that stitch. You're going to pull the thread through. Okay, now you're going to go back into that hole that you just came out of. Remember, when you've got long thread, always pull it out in the opposite direction it's coming from. All my thread is draped on this side, so I'm pulling it out on this side. Just that way it's going to reduce the chance of it getting tangled. But if you have a kitty cat at home, that's going to be a little bit harder. Okay, that's it. So you see that stitch took much longer to do. Okay. But when the thread is really long, this really is the only way of doing it. Oh, it's caught on my foot. This is the only way to do it until it shortens up. And on top of that, if you've got the tension really, really tight, then it might be a bit more difficult. Now this one here, okay, I can, instead of doing 3 stitches all in one shot, I can do the last 2 in one shot. Judge the tension. Oh, it's not tight at all, so I can just keep doing this. But if it's really tight, then just do the stitches one step at a time. Otherwise, you'll run the risk of tearing your signature and your thread getting tangled. beauty. Okay, let's go through this one. Okay, this one I am going to do it. Just pull it out because then when we attach the next signature, that's going to be done with a knot. So I might as well do everything slowly. Okay, next signature on top. Now I didn't punch my holes yet, so let me just do that now. A clunk. Clunk, clunk, clunk. So now all you're going to do is just basically unclamp. The clamping does take a little bit of time, but you're going to be assured that your book will more or less be better laid out. So line it up. Okay. And this book is going to take twice as long because I am doing each signature on its own. Oops. Find that, just make sure that they all line up. Because the signatures are individual, you'll get a perfect clean edge on there. But if you want to line up, if you want to nest your signature, like 2 folios in one signature, that's fine. You can do that too. That's no big deal. There we go. Now we're all set for the next one. So all you're going to do to attach the third signature, you're just going to go from the second signature up into the hole. And continue on. These are the exact same strokes as the Coptic journal with no covers. The only difference is that I have a folio, single page as my actual signature. So the thread is much, see, I just got a knot without even doing anything. So fix that. The thread is very, very long. Okay. Nice and snug. Now you're going to go around the loop that's joining the first and second signature, that loop that's there. Okay, let me get a close-up. Let's see if the camera will pick that up. Okay. So you've come out. You're going to go through here. See that? Okay, let's pull this through. I'm going to pull it through the left because my string is on the right, just to keep it clean. Let me just turn the book a bit here. See, it's already getting tangled. That happens when the thread is all overlapping. Okay. Drape the thread back onto the floor. Okay, so we went around. Then we're going to go back into the hole, making sure that everything's snug. And when you go into the hole, make sure that you're going through the hole and not through the thread that's there. Pull this out. And I'm just going to drape the thread onto my left, onto the floor. You got a little bit of a tear. See, now we have a knot again. So I'm just going to, I know this one's just because the thread was laying on top of each other. So just carefully. And it doesn't matter how careful you are, you will get tangled, so don't worry. Okay, now the one thing that I was doing in the other journal, let's see if I can loosen this back up. So you looped it around, is that before putting the needle back in, I also looped through here to make a knot. I'm not doing that with this one. That's optional. You can if you want. Okay. And pull this through. Now what I'm doing, let me zoom out now. Okay, so what I'm doing is actually, as I'm doing this and taking this and putting it to the floor, I'm watching this here, so I can visually catch if there's a knot that's coming up. Okay, there we go. Like I said, when your thread gets shorter, you'll be able to do some of the strokes a lot faster. My thread is getting tangled up around the microphone wire. But if you have a kitty cat, just be careful. So see, now it's coming through here. Now what I was doing in the other journal is I was actually making a knot through here and going through. It just makes it more secure. But if you have to take it apart, it's a lot harder if you make the knots. If you just go out, through, around, and back, if you happen to have to unthread it for some reason, it's much easier. And try not to let your needle fall on the floor. I already see a knot starting here without doing anything. So get that thread cleaned up. There we go. Okay, nice and snug. Not too tight. Snug, not tight. And through. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going here, and what I'll do is as I go through, if something happens, like I snag the thread or something happens where it's a boo-boo, I'll stop the video and go through it detailed for you. But what we'll do is, because this is the same strokes now, that's from the floor. These are the same stitch strokes for the rest of the book. I'll fast forward the video, probably about 800%, so it will be fast. And go through. Oh, it'll be shorter video to watch. The entire book being stitched in slow motion was done in part 1. So if you're watching this part, you should have watched part 1 already, because I did a lot of general talking in there about journaling and prompts and stuff like that. It's getting a little bit easier now because the thread is shorter. So I'm going to see if I can do one all at once. So I'm going to go around and back through the hole. See if I can do this all in one shot. And it's not that I'm being lazy, it's I've done these so many times, and it's just, yeah, see, this is working fine. I've done these so many times, I know what the tension feels like. But what I'm doing is I'm putting all the thread here. That is a tangle waiting to happen. It's got to be on the floor, because especially if the thread is very long. That is a tangle just waiting to happen. See, the thread is getting twisted. That you'll never get away from too. And the way that you can solve that is every once in a while, just take your thread from here and just do this and hold it. And what you're doing is I'm going to drape that on my right. You're kind of, it's like when you have a hose and you coil the hose and sometimes it's twisting wrong. You just kind of do this, and then you'll notice when if it's all twisted, your needle will start spinning, because the thread is going back into its original shape. Okay. Through. The tension will be very tight if you've made your stitches very tight. Okay. This one is tight. This one's very tight. So, because I've already got the stitch through there, okay, because I've got this, stay there. I've already got the stitch started. Let me just pull it back out. What I'll do, that all is forever in my way. Is I'm just going to pull it out. Like finish the stitch because the tension was too tight. Okay, now I can pull this one. You see what I did? Is I tried to do all the stitches at the same time, a little tight, so instead of feeding the needle back through, is I can still loosen the stitches and just do it manually. And this thread is waxed, so it is causing the threads sometimes to stick. There we go. So I'm going to do these. This last one here, I'm going to do this by one at a time. Now that's wrapped around my leg. Okay, goes through. We take our next signature, through the hole, around, and then we do the whole thing all over again. Well, that's it. So that one's finished. This took such a long time. Holy smokes, that took such a long time to do. I would say it took a lot more than an hour. This took about 4 hours to do. My hand was just cramping up, so I had to stop. Time for the cover. Now the cover we're going to put on the exact same way as this here. And I actually finished this last night at 11:30, so I just clamped it tight just to further crease it. So there we go. Beautiful. So I came up with another idea for this, and we're not going to do anything right now. It'll be a little bit later on. Have you ever had a need to, when you're in your journal, to put, let's say, pockets or something inside? You can with these. Now, you can attach pockets with these threads here because each folio is its own signature, but when you open up between two signatures, you've got the threads here. You can also use that opportunity in here to grab some of these stitches. Okay, you can grab some of these stitches to do something as well. Okay, so that turned out quite nicely. And I just realized that I missed a stitch right here. Right here, I missed a stitch. See? How? And I missed another one here. How in the heck did that happen? In here. But not there, just on this side. I have no idea how that happened. Easy enough to fix. You just put the thread in here, through here, and then tie a knot. It's no big deal. But the book is actually quite strong the way it is. Another decorative thing you can do, if you have some fancy tape, in between here, you can put a nice strip of fancy tape around after we put the cover on. But you don't want to cover these stitches up. Okay, you want to have them nice and open. So to put this cover on, we're going to go through the same way. So we've come out here. Okay, so we're going to go just through here. So we've got our last stitch through here. Okay, and we're going to go back through the same hole. I'm not going to clamp these, there's no need. But I kind of have to peek over my my glasses. Ouchie! Ouchie, ouchie, ouchie. What happened? Oh, of course. Of course. Bear with me. I have a knot. Of course. Alright, you know what I'm going to do? I'm cutting it off. Don't need it. When I will never ever, well, not for a workshop, do a Coptic journal this big for a video with single signatures. It was so tiring. I'll probably do it on, I would do it on my own, because I could do it over a couple of days. But yeah, it was tiring on the hands. So keep that in mind when you're doing yours. So I've gone through, so I'm just going to make this snug, not tight, snug. Okay? And although we have threads here, we just go back over. I'm just going to go right through the same hole. Come back out. And now this is loose, so we just need to snug this up a little bit. Okay. Go through here. I kept the knots to a minimum. That way the book is actually easy to take apart. But you can knot it if you want. Okay, just don't make them so tight. If you make it too tight, the book is going to be very hard to open. There we go. And then we'll go to the next one. And through here. I was actually thinking of a way that I could do this with rings, like metal rings. And I don't think you can, not with this type of stitch, but that would be kind of pretty to bind your cover with some rings. I'm going to go through the whole stitch here. Okay, back through. Come through the signature. But you see how this curved needle comes in so handy? And these needles are so inexpensive compared to bookbinding needles. And with these, I don't hurt myself that often. With the bookbinding needles in the beginning, I was chalking that up to just being new at it. But no, I will never go back to anything other than these curved needles. Anytime I can bind the book when there's no blood involved, that's a plus for me. Alright, this is going to make an amazing journal. Whoopsie. Okay, we're going to knot this one. Alright. So now before we actually tie it off, check to see how it opens. Beautiful, beautiful. It is completely optional, up to you. Once you've tied this off, whether you want to have these exposed or if you want to glue the front cover down, okay? You can actually glue both, but an idea is you can glue this one down, but this one here, if you make a cutout, even a cutout like this or a punch, part of a punch here, and then tape or glue just this bottom edge, and now you have a pocket to put stuff. Okay? Same thing with this one. Glue this one down all the way, and this one here, make a cutout, and just glue the side and the bottom over, and then you have a pocket to hold stuff. If you glue just the back sheet on, you will have this piece that flops up. It's not a big deal at all. It's not a big deal. but some of you may not like the flippy floppies. So now that we've double checked, the book can open up quite nicely. Now we're going to go through. So we came around, through the hole and back out. Now I'm just going to go through that same loop, which will make the knot, and make sure this one's snug. Okay, and I'll do this up here. Now I'm going to go through, just go through the closest stitch around and through the hole, just to make a couple more knots. This you may actually want to put a little dab of a decoupage medium, or a dab of weld bond glue, or some type of glue, non-yellowing glue, pH balance, acid free, all that stuff, so your paper doesn't yellow. There we go. We'll just cut that off. Let's cut that a bit shorter. There we go. And this is too big. Okay, I'm going to use my brushes that are really worn out, my soft grip brushes. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of glue, and I'm just going to little dab here. It'll dry clear. And where was the first stitch done? I'm trying to look. And I'm going to, and I'm looking here where some of the stitches here just a little bit loose. I'm just going to put just a little bit of glue. The insides are fine, it's the outsides. It's going to put a little bit of decoupage medium on this. It'll just make it stronger, okay? But on that knot for sure. And the first knot is actually inside the book. I'm almost out of this stuff. Just to reinforce it. The last thing you want to do is have your book fall apart. But I don't know why I missed a stitch here. That is bizarre. That is bizarre. Whoops, too much. I'm just letting it sink in a little bit. These don't need it. This one does. Oh, and before I forget, my book ended up only being 19 signatures. One of the signatures, when I was sewing, I lost my grip. The book fell to the floor and actually tore through the paper, so I just took it out. Didn't bother adding another one because that's a lot of pages. So it's only 19 signatures in here. 19 signatures. If you used all the sheets, 19 signatures times 4, that's an awful lot of painting surfaces. Can you imagine how much room you would need to have that many, even 1/8 inch Masonite panels or something? This is really, really great. So there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to glue this down, make a notch, and just fasten this to make a pocket. So let me go get those supplies, and I'll just be back in a sec. Now this is completely optional. You do not have to do this, and I wasn't planning on doing this, except I just came up with an idea, and I'll just show how it's done. So we're going to assume that we're going to be gluing this down. So I'm going to do that first. Actually, no, let me go back. Instead of doing one big massive pocket, I'm going to cut this in half, and I'm going to have 2 small pockets here. So just putting this piece in here, this is just how versatile that this is. I don't want to cut all the way to the end because that'll reduce the strength of the book. But what I can do, ruler, I can come in here and I can make a cut right about here, okay, which will make a nice little pocket. And I could just reinforce this with some type of decorative piece, or so I can make a pocket here. Or you can make a pocket if you want to put tags. You can make a pocket like this, sideways, so you can put tags coming in this way, which I think is actually kind of neat, putting it on an angle. So I'll do the front one this way, and if I get a piece of paper, and I'm going to assume what an average size tag. Oh, even just one would be nice. maybe the introduction to the book or something. If you put it this way, it's nice too, but it's too rigid. So yeah, right here, nice big tag. So I'll give it to about here to here. Metal ruler is best for this, and an X-Acto knife that's not broken. To go through? Not even close. Not even close. There we go. That worked. Okay, so now we have that. And I'm going to take my little punch here, and I'm only going to go halfway. Oops, let me turn that. Paper's a bit thick for that, so be careful when you do that. Okay, so let's glue this down now. I thought for a minute there I didn't put the right one. You don't have to do this. Okay, I'm just doing this because I just had an idea. Just a way to do something a little bit different. This is actually something I probably should have done in the actual bookbinding part, or the decorating part, but that's okay. Just another way that you can decorate your book. Make it totally your own. Okay. And then here, all I'm going to do, as I've got the decoupage medium in a little bottle. Come on. Actually, I don't even need to use that. I can use the brush, because it's going to be a tag, so we don't need to be so fussy. We can actually glue the whole thing here like this. It's just holding a tag. There we go. Avoid watering this down. And this here is just the brush hairs. I'm not worried about that. So I'm going to, like that, and a binder clip. You actually should put a few binder clips on this. Because your journal is flexible until you're finished with it, but then you can put it down and then put something on top of it. Okay, then your tag would just sit right inside here. Okay, then on the back we'll do the same thing. Come on. Like I said, you don't have to do this, I just wanted to. Same thing here. Let me just cut this the right way though. This punch is a little bit too delicate. Not so too delicate, but it doesn't punch through the paper that easily. Just be careful. And okay, so the top, we glue the bottom just a little bit, depending on the size of your tag. And I think I glued too much of the bottom on the other one, but that's okay. No big deal. There's always a way to get around things. Put that in the water. This, oh, I think I have only one more application left on that. Alright, I'm going to grab a piece of wax paper. Once you get a tag in there, it'll be, add a little bit of bulk to it. Yeah, I put the glue a little bit too close to the top, but it still holds the tag. It still holds it. And wax paper here. And then I can put something heavy on top to, you know, hold all this down until it's set. It won't take long to set, so you'll be ready to use this journal. If you've done the gluing, you'll be ready to use this journal for formal art in about 15-20 minutes. So that's about it. So I hope that you enjoyed this workshop, and now you have. Let me just double check this one. There we go. Nice, nice. So you have a couple of options. So you've got this bookbinding tutorial, plus there's the ones that I did on the dark side of vintage with the pamphlet and the expanding. So you have quite a few type of journal styles to choose from for your book of backgrounds. If you do it in something like this, then you can create your journal pages right on top, which is really cool, because what you can do, let me just get my other one that's done. All you do is just flip to a page that has a background that speaks to you for a theme and create it on that. You do not have to be linear with your design, meaning going here, front, second page, third page. You don't have to do your journal that way. Unless you're doing a journal based on daily activities or something like that, then it is linear. But otherwise, you can just flip to a page and just create something. Okay. I'm going to use my Strathmore journal just because I need to do something with it. I also have this here that I got. And again, it's something manufactured. I have no idea what to do with it. It's just, I don't know if it's just something, it's purely psychological, I guarantee it, to create something with this. I'm thinking, okay, well, think of it as just cardboard bits that have already been cut out. So I will do something with that. And also wanted to show you another journal, which is another way. All those pamphlet style journals that I did, this is the one I demonstrated in the dark side of vintage. It's basically, okay, it's 3 folios, 1 signature. You go in through here, out, in, out through here, and then you tie a knot. Okay. Then what I did, I took all those signatures and I tied them together, and I did really fancy, not so fancy tie-offs, because then what I could do on here, I could put beads on here. And this is my journal fodder journal, and the covers is just something I was experimenting with. This is last year. I took the leftover paint, I just mixed it up, then I threw on paint, then I took, this is over a few paintings, and then I took the bags that you get onions in, I took that, put it on here. Then another painting, I had leftover silver paint, so I just spread that on here, and basically just used up every little bit of whatever I had left over. This I have to file down because that's pointy. But so there's another type of journal that you can use. And I found, here's another one with the Coptic stitches, much smaller, okay? And the Collage Material, this is a napkin that I found at a discount store, and then I just separated the papers and I just collaged it. This is just decorative papers that you can find at dollar stores and stuff like that. And with this one though, I did not bind the first page into the inside because I really like this design. But this is also a Coptic journal. This one here, I actually put pictures of animals in here, and then just put a very thin layer of gesso over here. There's a whole bunch of animals in here. These are animals that have died. And I was going to use this as a memorial journal, but never happened. So that's it. So I hope that you enjoyed this workshop, and when you get ready to do your background, so you need to have something ready to get started. Unless you're going to do it in the expanding journal style, which I demonstrated in the Dark Side of Vintage, the first few sections, that's fine. But other than that, get your journal ready, and in the next set of videos, we're going to start preparing backgrounds, and there's a whole whack load of backgrounds. The backgrounds that we're going to be creating are based on technique, and I was going to basically work all that stuff into what I was going to call an Arts Blitz, which was a whole bunch of workshops, techniques, and then classes and stuff like that. And I thought, why do that? Why not just work it into something that we're already doing? So I'm teaching technique in the form of doing backgrounds, because then you can use those backgrounds later on when we start creating journal pages on top of those backgrounds. Okay, so a lot of techniques are going to be demonstrated: resists, stenciling, stamping, collaging, glazing, layering, all that stuff is going to be covered. And so make sure you have a good number of signatures in your book. Okay? Don't make a journal with just 5 pages. It's not going to be enough. Okay, you need to have at least 10, 20, 30, at least 30 free pages, at least. Okay, and even that is a thin journal. So you're better off to have more pages in your journal than necessary, because then you can always still add to it later. My recommendation, between 15 to 20 signatures. Okay, with 1 or 2 folios. That'll cover you off. Just don't run out. All right, so that's it. So join me for the background section, and until next time, stay inspired.